Dr. Sarah Chen stared through the electron microscope, her breath catching in her throat. The sample from the Chernobyl exclusion zone shouldn't have been possible. Organisms that not only survived in highly radioactive environments, but appeared to thrive on radiation itself. After 30 years of research into extremophiles, she'd never seen anything like it. "Dr. Patel, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The head of xenobiology at the United Earth Sciences Division crossed the lab, his usual calm demeanor betraying a hint of curiosity. The microscope revealed clusters of cells that seemed to dance with an inner light, their membranes pulsing with a rhythm that matched the radiation levels in their containment chamber. But it wasn't just their behavior that was extraordinary, it was their DNA. "These organisms," Sarah explained, pulling up the genetic analysis on her holoscreen, "they're not just resistant to radiation, they're using it. Their cellular structure suggests they've evolved to harness radiation as an energy source, similar to how plants use photosynthesis." Dr. Patel's eyes widened as he studied the data. This could explain why our deep space probes kept detecting anomalous energy signatures in supposedly dead zones. We weren't looking at equipment malfunction. We were detecting life. Before Sarah could respond, the lab's emergency protocols activated. Red warning lights bathed the sterile white walls in an ominous glow as Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Earth Fleet strode in, flanked by 2 officers. "Doctors," she nodded curtly, "we have a situation. 3 hours ago, our long-range sensors detected an object entering the solar system. It's artificial, massive, and emitting radiation levels that would kill most known forms of life. We need your expertise." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Sarah and Dr. Patel found themselves in a secure facility beneath Geneva, surrounded by the brightest minds Earth had to offer. The holographic display showed the alien vessel, if that's what it was, decelerating as it approached Jupiter's orbit. "The radiation signature is unlike anything we've encountered," Admiral Reyes explained, gesturing to the readings. "It's not just background emissions from their propulsion system. It appears to be deliberate. Some kind of scanning beam, sweeping through our system." Sarah's mind raced back to her recent discovery. "Admiral, I think I know why they're scanning with radiation." She quickly shared her findings about the radiation-consuming organisms, explaining their implications. What if these visitors evolved in an environment where radiation was the primary energy source? They might assume any advanced life would use similar biological processes. Dr. Patel nodded slowly, adding, "And they'd be partially correct, just not in the way they expected. Humans are unique among Earth species in our radiation resistance. Our cells have remarkable repair mechanisms, developed over millions of years of exposure to Earth's natural radiation." The implications hit the room like a physical force. Earth, with its radioactive core, its constant bombardment of cosmic rays, and its history of nuclear events, had shaped humanity in ways they were only beginning to understand. They weren't just survivors of a radioactive world, they were its children. The alien vessel's scan reached Earth, and for a moment, every radiation detector on the planet spiked. Then, silence. 20 minutes later, the first transmission arrived. The message, once decoded, was surprising in its directness. "To the radiation-resistant species of the third planet, we are the Helios Collective, seekers of energy life. Your world burns with power we thought impossible to sustain. We request exchange of knowledge." Admiral Reyes turned to Sarah and Dr. Patel. "Well, doctors, how do we respond?" Sarah looked at her data again, thinking of the microscopic dancers in their radioactive ballet. "We tell them the truth. Earth isn't just our home. It's our teacher. We've learned to survive, adapt, and thrive in conditions that would kill most species. And now we're ready to share what we've learned." As they drafted Earth's response, Sarah couldn't help but smile at the irony. For centuries, humans had looked to the stars, wondering if they were alone, if they were special. They had imagined countless scenarios of first contact, but none quite like this. They had prepared for hostility, for indifference, even for incomprehension. Instead, they found themselves positioned as masters of something they had long considered a hazard, the very forces they had feared: radiation, nuclear power, the fundamental energies of the universe had shaped them into something unique in the galaxy. The Helios Collective's arrival wasn't just first contact. It was humanity's first step into a larger universe where their perceived weaknesses might prove to be their greatest strengths. As Sarah watched the message being transmitted into space, she realized that the real discovery wasn't the radiation-consuming organisms in her lab. It was humanity's own remarkable nature, finally understood in a cosmic context. "We haven't just survived radiation," she murmured. "We've mastered it. And that's exactly what the galaxy needs." Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the viewport of the UES Prometheus, watching the neutron star's mesmerizing dance of light and energy. 6 months had passed since first contact with the Helios Collective, and humanity had wasted no time putting their unique radiation resistance to use. "Status report on the radiation levels," she called out. Her voice steadied despite the gravity of their mission. The Prometheus was venturing deeper into what the Collective called the dead zones, regions of space where radiation levels exceeded anything their species could endure. Lieutenant James Chen responded from his station. "Current exposure rates are at 800 rems per hour and climbing. The Helios observers have already retreated to their shielded station near the system's edge." He paused, checking another reading. "Their probes are still active, though, watching our every move." Maya nodded, understanding their observers' fascination. The Prometheus, with its crew of specially selected humans, was exploring regions of space that had been considered off-limits for millennia. Their mission: to study and potentially harness the extreme radiation environments that other species feared. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the ship's lead xenobiologist, emerged from her lab. In the months since her groundbreaking discovery of radiation-consuming organisms, she'd become the foremost expert on life in extreme radiation environments. "Captain, you need to see this," Sarah said, excitement evident in her voice. She pulled up a holographic display showing readings from their latest probe deployment. "The radiation isn't just random emissions. There's a pattern to it, similar to what we observed in the Chernobyl organisms." Maya studied the data, her eyes widening. "Are you suggesting what I think you are?" "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "We're detecting signs of radiation-based life forms, far more advanced than anything we found on Earth. They're using the neutron star's emissions as their primary energy source." The bridge crew fell silent, processing the implications. They weren't just exploring dead zones. They were discovering entirely new ecosystems, forms of life that could only exist in these extreme environments. "Incoming transmission from the Helios observation post," Lieutenant Chen announced. The holographic display shifted to show Ambassador Xerix, their primary contact with the Collective. "Captain Rodriguez," the ambassador's translated voice carried clear concern. "Our sensors indicate you've penetrated deeper into the radiation field than any known species has survived. We strongly advise retreat to safer distances." Maya exchanged a glance with Sarah before responding. "Thank you for your concern, Ambassador, but we're perfectly within our safety margins. In fact, we've made a remarkable discovery. Dr. Chen, would you like to share our findings?" As Sarah explained their detection of radiation-based life forms, the ambassador's expression shifted from concern to astonishment. "Impossible," they declared. "Our civilizations have studied these regions for millennia. How could we have missed this?" "Because you couldn't get close enough," Maya explained. "These life forms exist in radiation levels that would destroy your sensors before they could detect anything. It took human physiology combined with your advanced technology to make this discovery possible." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just exploring these dead zones. They were opening up entirely new frontiers of scientific discovery. Their natural radiation resistance, combined with the Collective's advanced technology, was revealing secrets of the universe that had remained hidden for millions of years. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen interrupted, "I'm detecting unusual fluctuations in the radiation patterns. Something's responding to our presence." The crew watched in amazement as streams of energy began to coalesce around their ship, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with an almost musical rhythm. It wasn't random. It was communication. "They're curious about us," Sarah breathed, studying the readings. "Just as we are about them. We might be the first organic life forms they've ever encountered that could survive in their environment." Maya felt a profound sense of responsibility settle over her. Humanity had spent centuries fearing radiation, treating it as a hazard to be contained. Now they were discovering that their adaptation to it had made them unique in the galaxy. Bridges between traditional organic life and these newly discovered radiation-based entities. "Send a response using modulated radiation pulses," she ordered. "Let's show them that we can speak their language." As the Prometheus initiated first contact with these extraordinary beings, Maya reflected on how far humanity had come. They had evolved on a planet that other species considered hazardous, developed alongside radiation that others feared, and now they were discovering that their perceived curse was actually a gift, one that made them uniquely suited to unlock the mysteries of the universe. The radiation-based entities continued their dance around the ship, their patterns growing more complex, more deliberate. Humanity had found its role in the cosmic community, not just as explorers or diplomats, but as pioneers who could venture where others couldn't, understand what others feared, and bridge gaps that had seemed insurmountable. "We are truly the children of the hot zone," Sarah mused, watching the extraordinary interaction unfold. "And we're just beginning to understand what that means." The emergency alert pierced through the tranquil hum of the UES Prometheus's bridge. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew across his console, his usual calm demeanor cracking. "Captain, we're detecting a massive radiation surge from the neutron star's core. These readings, they're off the charts." Captain Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair, watching as the holographic display filled with warning indicators. The elegant dance of the radiation-based life forms they'd been communicating with had transformed into chaotic patterns, their pulses erratic and distressed. "Sarah, what are we looking at?" Maya called to Dr. Chen, who was already deep in analysis of the incoming data. "It's like nothing we've seen before," Sarah responded, her voice tense. "The radiation signatures suggest some kind of awakening. Something massive is emerging from within the neutron star itself." The ship's sensors captured it first, a colossal structure rising from the star's corona, its surface absorbing radiation at an impossible rate. It wasn't natural formation. Its geometrical patterns spoke of artificial design, of ancient and sophisticated engineering. "Incoming transmission from the Helios observation post," Lieutenant Chen announced. Ambassador Zurich's image appeared, their typically composed features twisted with fear. "Captain Rodriguez, you must withdraw immediately. Our historical records speak of this. The Radiants, an ancient species that weaponized stellar radiation. They were sealed away eons ago, when they threatened to destroy all conventional life in the galaxy." The massive structure continued to emerge, its surface now pulsing with stored energy. The radiation-based life forms they'd been studying fled from it in patterns that could only be interpreted as terror. "How were they sealed away?" Maya demanded, already suspecting the answer. "By a coalition of species that could withstand enough radiation to approach them," Zyrix replied. "Species that no longer exist in our galaxy. The radiation levels required for such operations proved fatal even to them over time." Sarah's eyes widened as she connected the dots. "But we can withstand it. Humans, we've evolved alongside radiation, developed repair mechanisms that those ancient species never had." The structure was now fully emerged, its size dwarfing the Prometheus. Energy patterns rippled across its surface in a language older than any known civilization, and the ship's quantum computers worked frantically to decode it. "Multiple radiation pulses detected," Lieutenant Chen reported. They're targeting the nearest inhabited systems. At these energy levels, they could sterilize entire planets. Maya made her decision. Sarah, can you modify our communication protocols? If these are the same type of radiation-based entities we've been studying, maybe we can reason with them. Already on it, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across her console. But Captain, there's something else you need to see. These patterns, they're not just communication. They're carrying vast amounts of data, historical records stored in radiation itself. The decoded information began streaming across their screens. The history of the radiants, a species that had evolved to exist in the hearts of stars, who had seen the spread of organic life as a threat to their domain. Their solution had been horrifyingly simple: raise radiation levels across the galaxy to levels that would kill organic life, but allow their kind to thrive. They're not just awakening, Sarah breathed. They're continuing their mission from billions of years ago. The radiation surges, they're testing the environment, preparing to transform the galaxy. Maya opened a channel to Earth Command, knowing their response would take precious minutes to arrive. This is Captain Rodriguez. We've encountered an ancient threat that only humanity can confront, requesting immediate backup and full authorization to act. The radiant structure pulsed again, stronger this time. Nearby stars began to fluctuate, their radiation outputs increasing dramatically. The Helios observation post signals became erratic as they retreated to safer distances. We can't wait for backup, Maya decided. Sarah, could we use our understanding of radiation-based life forms to communicate our own existence? Show them that organic life has evolved to coexist with radiation. Theoretically, yes, Sarah replied. But we'd need to get closer, much closer. At that range, even our enhanced radiation resistance would be pushed to its limits. Maya stood, her decision made. Lieutenant Chen, take us in. Sarah, prepare your transmission. The galaxy's already seen what humanity can survive. Now let's show them what we can do. As the Prometheus moved closer to the ancient structure, its crew felt the weight of history upon them. They had evolved on a world that other species considered too dangerous, developed alongside forces that others feared. Now that very evolution had placed them in a unique position, perhaps the only species in the galaxy capable of preventing this ancient apocalypse. The radiation alarms blared continuously as they approached, but the crew held steady. They were the children of Earth, where radiation was a daily companion, not an enemy. They had mastered it, learned from it, and now they would use that knowledge to save billions of lives. Sarah's modified transmission began, carrying not just data, but the story of humanity itself, a species that had learned to thrive in conditions that these ancient beings had once weaponized. It was a message of adaptation, of coexistence, and of hope. As the massive structure's response began to form, the crew of the Prometheus waited, knowing they stood at a pivotal moment in galactic history. They had awakened something ancient and terrible, but they had also discovered something profound about themselves. They were not just survivors of radiation, but its inheritors, and perhaps its ultimate masters. The bridge of the Prometheus thrummed with tension as they awaited the Radiant's response. The ancient structure's surface rippled with patterns of energy, processing humanity's message. Captain Rodriguez gripped her chair's armrests, acutely aware that billions of lives hung on what happened next. The response came not in words, but in a surge of focused radiation that engulfed the ship. Lieutenant Chen's hands flew across his console, shields holding. But they're scanning us. Deep scanning. They're analyzing our cellular structure. Sarah's eyes remained fixed on her readings. They're studying our radiation resistance, trying to understand how we've adapted to survive what they considered lethal. She paused, watching new data stream across her screen. Captain, they're responding with their own data, sharing their history. The ship's quantum computers processed the radiation-encoded information, revealing the full story of the Radiants. They were indeed ancient, emerging in the earliest days of the galaxy when radiation levels were far higher. As conventional life began to evolve and spread, the Radiants saw their domain shrinking, their very existence threatened by the changing universe. Their solution wasn't just genocide, Sarah explained, her voice heavy. It was preservation. Of themselves, of their way of life. They never encountered a species that could survive their presence, let alone communicate with them. A new transmission cut through their contemplation, this time from Earth Command. Admiral Helena Reyes's hologram appeared on the bridge. "Captain Rodriguez, we've received your report. The situation is worse than we thought. The Radiant's emergence has triggered similar structures in 12 other systems. We're getting reports of increasing radiation levels across multiple sectors." Maya felt her throat tighten. "How long?" "At current rates, we have less than 72 hours before radiation levels become lethal to most organic life forms. The Helios Collective and other species are already beginning mass evacuations, but there's not enough time or ships to save everyone." The radiant structure pulsed again, but this time Sarah's expression changed from concern to surprise. "Captain, these patterns, they're different. They're not just communicating, they're questioning. They're curious about us, about how we've achieved what their ancient enemies couldn't." Maya stood, an idea forming. "Sarah, could we use that curiosity? Show them there's another way." She turned to the Admiral's hologram. "Request permission to attempt negotiation. We might be able to convince them that evolution has created a new possibility, one they never considered." Admiral Reyes nodded grimly. "Permission granted. But be aware, we're preparing a fallback plan. Every nuclear-capable ship in the fleet is being mobilized. If negotiation fails, we'll have to attempt a coordinated strike on all 13 structures." "Understood." Maya turned to her crew. "Sarah, prepare a comprehensive data package. Show them everything. Our evolution, our adaptation, our mastery of radiation. Show them we're living proof that organic life can coexist with their energy levels." The next hour was crucial. The Prometheus transmitted detailed scans of human cellular structure, showing how Earth's natural radiation had shaped their species. They shared the story of their discovery of nuclear power, their development of radiation treatments for medicine, and their recent breakthroughs with radiation-based life forms. "Look at these patterns," Sarah said suddenly. "The Radiants, they're responding to our medical data. The idea of using radiation to heal rather than destroy, it's completely foreign to them." The ancient structure's emissions changed, becoming more focused, more controlled. New data streamed in. The Radiants were sharing their own technology, showing how their radiation manipulation could be refined, targeted. "They're offering a compromise," Sarah translated, her voice filled with wonder. "They can modify their emissions to be less lethal to organic life, if we help them establish safe zones where they can exist at full strength. They're suggesting a collaboration." Lieutenant Chen's console lit up with urgent signals. "Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. It's the strike fleet. They're moving into attack position." "Admiral," Maya called out, "tell them to hold. We're making progress. The Radiants aren't our enemies. They're potential allies. Their radiation mastery combined with our ability to survive it. We could revolutionize everything from space travel to medicine." The next few hours were a blur of negotiation and calculation. The Radiants proved to be not conquerors but survivors, ancient beings who had never encountered a species capable of bridging the gap between their world and the organic universe. In humanity, they found something unprecedented, a species that could handle their presence, understand their needs, and potentially help them find a new place in a changed galaxy. As the radiation levels began to stabilize and the evacuation orders were recalled, Maya stood at her viewport, watching the radiant structure's energy patterns shift into something more harmonious. They had done it, not through warfare or dominance, but through humanity's unique ability to adapt, to survive, to turn what others saw as deadly into something beneficial. "You know what this means," Sarah said, joining her at the viewport. "We're not just explorers anymore. We're mediators between two fundamental forms of life in the universe. Everything changes from here." Maya nodded, watching as the first Helios ships cautiously returned to their observation posts. Humanity had faced its crucible and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had proven themselves to be something unique in the galaxy. Masters of radiation who could bridge the gap between worlds that had seemed forever separated. The universe, they had discovered, was far more complex than anyone had imagined. And humanity's greatest weakness had turned out to be their greatest strength. The key to a new era of galactic cooperation and discovery. 5 years after the Radiant Crisis, Earth's Singapore spaceport hummed with activity, unlike anything in human history. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching as ships from across the galaxy docked at the newly constructed Radiation Interface Station. Below her, human technicians worked alongside Helios engineers, their radiation suits a stark contrast to the protected environments their alien colleagues required. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Captain Maya Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, joined her at the window. The years had added a few gray streaks to her hair, but her eyes still held the same determination that had helped save the galaxy. That humanity's curse turned out to be our greatest gift to the universe. Sarah smiled, watching as a radiant energy form shimmered into existence in its designated docking area, its presence carefully contained by human-designed radiation barriers. I don't think anyone could have predicted this. The Radiation Interface Station was humanity's crowning achievement, a place where radiation-based and conventional organic life could safely interact, with humans serving as the essential bridge between these two fundamental forms of existence. The station's design incorporated both radiant technology and human innovation, creating spaces where various species could coexist despite their drastically different environmental needs. Ambassador Zurich's ship is approaching, a technician announced. The Helios vessel glided into its berth, its advanced shielding supplemented by human radiation management systems. Hard to believe they once thought our planet was too dangerous to support life, Maya mused. Now they're here to discuss expanding the interface network to 12 more systems. The years following the Radiant Crisis had transformed humanity's place in the galaxy. Their unique radiation resistance, combined with their diplomatic success, had made them essential partners in a new era of galactic cooperation. Human scientists worked with radiant entities to develop new forms of energy production and medical treatments, while human ships carried out missions in high radiation zones that other species couldn't approach. Dr. Chen, a young researcher, hurried up to them, tablet in hand. The latest results from the Jupiter Medical Facility are in. The combined human radiant radiation therapy is showing a 98% success rate in treating conditions that were once considered incurable. Sarah took the tablet, scanning the data with practiced ease. The medical applications of their partnership with the Radiants had exceeded even her optimistic predictions. By learning to precisely control and direct radiation at the cellular level, they had revolutionized healthcare across the galaxy. To think, she said, we once feared radiation so much we built entire facilities to contain it. Now we're teaching other species how to harness it safely. A soft chime announced another arrival. This time, a ship from the newly established Human Radiant Academy, where young humans trained to work directly with radiation-based life forms. The Academy had become the most prestigious scientific institution in known space, its graduates highly sought after by species across the galaxy. Ambassador Zurich emerged from their ship, their environmental suit notably less bulky than the early models. Another human innovation, improving radiation shielding technology to allow for better interaction between species. Admiral Rodriguez, Dr. Chen, the ambassador greeted them warmly. The Collective Council has reviewed your proposal for the Deep Space Initiative. They've unanimously approved it. Maya and Sarah exchanged excited glances. The Deep Space Initiative was their most ambitious project yet. A joint mission between humans, radiants, and conventional organic species to explore regions of space previously considered too dangerous to approach. With human crews managing radiation levels, radiant entities providing energy and navigation, and collective technology handling everything else, Xyrix continued, we can finally explore the galaxy's most extreme environments safely. We've come a long way from thinking we were alone in the universe, Sarah reflected. Now we're not just part of the galactic community, we're essential to its future. The observation deck's windows automatically tinted as a radiant transport manifested nearby, its brilliant energy form negotiating the docking protocols they had helped develop. The sight had become common, but it never ceased to amaze, a testament to how far they'd come. You know what the younger species are calling us now? Maya asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. The Star Children. They say we're the ones who learned to dance with radiation. Sarah watched as human technicians coordinated the complex choreography of ships and entities arriving and departing. Each arrival represented a different form of life, a different set of needs, all brought together by humanity's unique capabilities. We're not just the children of a radioactive world anymore, she said. We've become its guardians, its interpreters, its bridge builders. She paused, watching a group of Academy students excitedly observing a radiant energy transfer, and we're teaching the next generation to carry that legacy forward. The sun was setting over Singapore, its rays casting long shadows through the station's radiation filtering windows. Below them, humans moved confidently through areas that would kill most organic life, their bodies' natural resistance supplemented by generations of technological advancement and understanding. Our ancestors looked up at the stars and wondered if we ever find our place among them, Maya said softly. They never imagined that the very thing they feared would make us indispensable to the galaxy. As night fell over Earth, the station continued its vital work, a shining example of humanity's transformation from survivors to pioneers. They had not just mastered radiation. They had used that mastery to forge connections between fundamentally different forms of life, turning an ancient divide into a bridge to the future. The legacy of the stars, it turned out, was not just about survival or adaptation. It was about taking what made humans unique and using it to make the galaxy a better place for all forms of life. In learning to thrive in conditions others feared, humanity had found not just their place in the cosmos, but their purpose as mediators, innovators, and guardians of a new age of galactic cooperation.